Welcome to the Freelance Thrive. Here we talk with skilled freelancers about their professional journey. So stay tuned for real life experiences to learn and actionable steps to take to improve your freelancing career. And today my guest is Manuel Rubio. And Manuel is a polyglot developer, bassist, player, parent of two children, a writer who already wrote 6 books about Elixir, Erlang, and the history of programming languages in Spanish, and some of them even translated into English, and a professional trainer. So, welcome, Manuel.
Welcome. Well, thank you for having me in the show.
Yeah, I'm super happy to talk to you. And let's start from the first question. So, how do you measure and track your professional growth and set future goals?
Well, I think for me it's very difficult to answer that question because I had not doing that. I think because I was starting the development because I came from the studying as a system administrator. So I was more in the part of the hardware, more in the part of the systems, and then I realized I was very good at developing. So I was helping first in the companies I was hired to develop software, and then I was more involved little by little until I get positions only for developing instead of administrating systems. But previous even to jump into those kind of roles, I had to say that, well, for me, I started developing or programming when I was 12 years old. So something like, how do you measure your progression? I was starting with developing basic, I recall when I was 16 years old, I met a math teacher that was facing me the Pascal and C++ compilers. So I was very interested in see how that was working and buying some books, following some specific codes I was finding for other people. But well, even was difficult because in the 90s, internet was not so popular like these days. And when I was starting as a developer, I was keeping the same way of behaving. Like, okay, the main developing language is now PHP. I have to learn PHP, so I was getting positions using that language. Previously, because I was a C developer, so I could combine the PHP with C. So that drove me to get more attractive positions in terms of wage to get a higher salary because my profile was not only a PHP developer, was someone that could understand the protocols, the entering of the systems, and was more valuable for the positions I was getting. And then I think was in Madrid that I get my first position as a manager, getting the responsibility to get a whole team to lead them and get them into the development of something bigger that I was realizing where there is more than only programming languages or the technologies. We have to learn a lot about how to work with teams, work together in different areas. So I think my progression was trying to figure out what is needed for the next step and then try to get it. And even when I started in my career as freelance, was trying to figure out what could be needed because it was a jump into systems like Erlang and Elixir. And in the beginning was because WhatsApp was sold to Facebook, and I was detecting that in Europe mainly there was a lot of companies that wanted to replicate that business model to create a chat system based on Erlang and sell it to a big company. So I was working in companies in the Netherlands, in Paris, Helsinki, London, a lot of companies in different countries and different cities was trying to do the same. And basically, I was realizing that there is no technology that is staying there for longer. Even when the people say, "Well, you see COBOL is there for more than 50 years." Yeah, but COBOL is was adopted too many years ago, and you have the luck to learn from the people that is very good at that language. Maybe you can stay in one of those companies that are using it, but you have not mobility. Maybe you have a big wage, but you have not the possibility to jump into another kind of work. So what I usually do is trying to figure out what kind of technologies I like most or fit better the way I like to work, and which companies are using it at this moment, and trying to trace a plan about how to learn it, how to position it to be hired by them or be in contact with them. So I was even tempted these days to start with Rust or even Go or other languages that are arising now, like Cargo, that is a new language that Google is working on.
Yeah.
And there is always possibilities, and you have to be prepared to learn and continue progressing.
And you told that you are checking like what companies uses languages, what languages are rising, and how do you identify which technology to learn?
Well, it's a bet because when you are choosing the technologies, it's something like you have to be honest with yourself, because in my case, for example, I don't like too much the front end part of developing. Mm-hmm. So whatever that is related to the front end JavaScript and the mobile devices is it costs to me a lot to learn and get very productive on those technologies. So I was detecting that my passion is in the backend. So I was checking, okay, what technologies are good these days about the backend and that are worth it to learn it, because in this case, for example, I could choose, for example, JavaScript and Node, but you have to be very, 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 very in the concept of okay, I'm going to learn very fast and very often, because this is a very moving language that has a very rich ecosystem and is changing every week. So every week is appearing new technologies, new things, and you have to be up to date very often. So if you are in that mood of, okay, I like a lot to learn, I like a lot what is moving in that ecosystem, so you can go in that direction, and of course you are going to get job offers. But because of that ecosystem is too fragmented, I was detecting that you can go, for example, learning the Node, learning Express, learning some specific libraries, some specific frameworks, and then they try to search something to work for a company and detect that they are using other completely different frameworks. So it's a lot of companies are using the JavaScript, but not all the companies are using the same frameworks. And because there are a lot of them, at the end of the day, the offers are not too many in comparison with other languages or other ecosystems that are in a pace slower, that is giving you the chance to get them, grasp them, and be very good on them. I was choosing the Erlang ecosystem because it's almost 20 years old. So it's very mature, but even the pace of upgrades is not too too often like JavaScript, and that is giving you the chance to grasp good the terminology, the the way that the people is working on those frameworks and those libraries and using the protocols, and you can get a more understandable mindset when you approach to an offer that a companies like Cisco or even the well, Facebook, WhatsApp, or those companies that are using Erlang uh, are at these days offering jobs for that language. And even most of the people are now migrating, well, not migrating, but yes, adopting the Elixir, that is a more modern language on top of the same platform. So they are like, okay, we want to stick with the platform. Like if you are, well, in the front end development, it's clear that you have to stick with JavaScript because the browsers are not going to change. So you can use, for example, JavaScript, like a script or whatever language that is related to JavaScript. But in the backend, you have more freedom because depending on the company, if they want to stick with JavaScript or they want to stick with the .NET or Java or whatever specific ecosystem, you can go into that specific ecosystem and learn a lot about Scala or C Sharp or whatever that is creating the technologies the companies you want to work on are using, and then be very good to be hired or eligible in a job offer. So yeah, in my approach, I was choosing mainly the companies because when I was a child, I wanted to be a game developer. So I was checking for example, the Demon War, that is a company in the UK. Was using Erlang for the servers in the games like Call of Duty. And I was very surprised about, oh, they are using Erlang for games. So I was trying to approach that company and trying to work with them, but well, as other things were appearing in the past, and I finished in different sectors and different sides. Well, approaching that goal, I was in a fork of other paths, but well, it was not too bad. Was very that was worth it for me.
You know, Manuel, I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit to our conversation. So, final question. What is your favorite food?
Oh. Well, I'm Spanish. I think Spanish omelette is a typical favorite food for one that is from Spain, and there is a lot of time that I'm not in Spain, so I miss that because well, my cooking skills are not enough to make a good Spanish omelette.
So I guess when you are in Spain, you are definitely take it. Got it. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Manuel. It's been such a pleasure to hear and learn from you.
Thanks to you.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.